Hey there folks, how you doing today? Man, it's cold out here in the barn, but I'm suffering through it to get this done because a couple of you have asked me to do this. And so I'm going to jump right into it. This is actually not the first take, but it's going to be the last take this time, I think. So get ready, here we go. All right, this video is produced at the request of viewers. It is intended for novice level handgun shooters. It is produced to be merely a guide and should not be considered a substitute for local laws or common sense. Understand that while I did select two handguns for this video, these are just two handguns that I considered to be two very good choices for the material we're covering. This is in no way intended to be an end-all be-all recommendation. For those of you who are wondering who this guy is that's talking to you, I invite you to watch this video that I produced a couple of weeks ago, in which I gave a detailed explanation at the beginning concerning my level of experience dealing with this type of matter. Suffice it to say, I have a considerable amount of experience with handguns. Moving right along, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions here today. First, I'm going to make the assumption that this is the first handgun you've ever purchased. Second, I'm going to make the assumption that somebody told you to buy a 9mm. I'm going to make the assumption that you want something easy to find, reliable, affordable, and something that doesn't require a great amount of skill to master the usage of. For this video, I have selected the following two firearms. But first, I'm going to show you, as I always like to do, that we are dealing with safe and empty weapons. There's no ammunition on the table. It's going to remain that way for the remainder of this video portion. The first handgun that I have selected here should be no surprise to anyone. This, folks, is the Glock 19. I selected the Glock 19 because, in my opinion, it is one of the best options for an all-around handgun. It is large enough to shoot easily. It has a very large magazine capacity. It is also small enough to be concealed if you needed to conceal it for carry purposes, within reason. The second handgun that I have selected also should be no surprise to anyone. This is the Taurus G3c. I selected the Taurus G3c because, first, it is extremely affordable at about half the price of the Glock, but it has also been very reliable. It is also slightly smaller and therefore a little bit more concealable than the Glock. However, it is still large enough to shoot well. It has a 12-round capacity as opposed to Glock's 15-round capacity. The MSRP on a Glock 19 like this one is about $600. The MSRP on this Taurus G3c is about $300. So what's the difference? While there are plenty of folks out there that would argue the point, I will tell you, after years of experience with handguns, Glock handguns are nearly bulletproof. While anything can fail, and most assuredly at some point everything will fail, Glock handguns are extremely durable. They have continued to progress and evolve throughout the generations. This Gen 5 Glock is extremely rugged and reliable, and has now been fine-tuned to the point of where I think you would be hard-pressed to find another pistol in this price bracket that was any better. Accessories for a Glock are readily available and less expensive than a lot of other models. We're going to cover accessories a little bit more here in a minute, but we're not going to get too deep into the weeds on that. The Taurus G3c, for what it is and what you pay for it, is extremely good. While I have had certain issues with this pistol with certain types of ammunition, Overall, it has proven itself over thousands of rounds to be extremely reliable and durable. Given that the end user does their part, this pistol has never failed me. There are videos that detail the specifics of these two pistols. Suffice it to say, Glock pistols, such as this Model 19 right here, do not have any type of external safety with the exception of the little blade in the middle of the trigger. It is intended to be operated safely by keeping your booger hook off of the bang switch until you are ready to pull the trigger. This Taurus G3c, on the other hand, does have a manual safety that, in my opinion, just gets in the way. Aside from that manual safety, it operates more or less like the Glock with a trigger safety in the middle of the trigger blade. One major difference between these two, although I hardly consider it to be anything to concern yourself with, is that with the Taurus G3c, once you pull the trigger, you can pull it again if the gun did not fire. It has what's called a second strike capability, in that the trigger resets itself. Whereas with the Glock, once you pull the trigger stays rearward, is now dead, and will not come forward until the pistol has been cycled. Both of these pistols are fairly easy to accessorize. However, the Taurus is nowhere near as accessorizable as the Glock. So moving forward, depending on how much you're willing to spend and how you intend to carry the weapon, could and should further help you decide which one of these may be a good choice for you. If you live in a jurisdiction where it is legal for you to conceal carry a pistol, I suggest that you do that, but know your local laws. If you plan to carry the pistol on a regular basis, understand that for every ounce that pistol weighs, you're going to feel it that much more at the end of the day. If you were purchasing the pistol with the intention of carrying it on your person, I would suggest something more along the size of the Taurus G3c. If you intend to keep the pistol in your vehicle when you're traveling or on your nightstand at night, but doubt that you will wear it concealed on your person with any type of regularity, then I would go more for something the size of the Glock 19. So if you are going to carry a pistol like this, how should you carry it? For a Glock 19, I recommend that it be carried in some type of paddle holster made out of Kydex. I really think that is a good way to carry a pistol of this size. Now I have here on the table in front of me, and we're going to explore them in depth, a couple of different options for paddle holsters. The first one here is made by a company called Phobos out of the nation of Israel. And the retention for this holster is provided by this screw, which adjusts the amount of friction applied to the sides of the pistol as it slides into the Kydex holder. There's no mechanical fastener keeping the pistol in place, just the friction and the pinch here on the trigger guard. They are fairly simple to remove from the holster, but you do have to pull on it a little bit. And in order to make that happen without the whole thing coming out of your pants, you need to be wearing a proper belt. More on that later. Another really nice feature of the Phobos holster is they're not that expensive. This one was less than $30 at Academy. Just be aware of the fact that if you intend to purchase that holster on eBay or on Amazon, that you watch out for the notorious Phobos holster. This may look like the Phobos holster. It might even say Phobos, but it is not a Phobos holster. It's very difficult to tell from the video, but the quality of these two items is night and day difference. This one was made by somebody that actually cared about what they were doing. This one was made in a PRC sweatshop by somebody making 10 cents a day. And it shows. Another really good option for a holster for the Glock 19 is a paddle holster like this Blackhawk Serpa that has an active retention device. If you notice right here on the front of the holster, there's a button that you have to push in order to release the pistol from the holster. Now keep in mind, there are a lot of folks that do not like this design because they don't like applying pressure with their trigger finger that close to the trigger guard of a pistol. If you notice there, I just pulled the pistol out of the holster and my finger is right where it's supposed to be. That's where trigger discipline comes in. You have to maintain proper trigger discipline when handling firearms. If you weren't paying attention to what you were doing, I suppose it would be that you could come out of the holster like that and have a mishap. But I actually had to put quite a bit of effort into making that happen. I do not consider a holster like this Blackhawk Serpa holster to be unsafe in any way. It also provides more security to the firearm while in the holster than the Phobos holster does. Now, if you were going to carry something like this Taurus G3c, you could carry it in a paddle holster like that, but they are also well suited to something like this holster, which is intended to be worn inside the waistband with only the clip and the grip of the pistol sticking out of your pants. This is a little bit more discreet and concealable than something like this paddle holster. But just keep in mind that it may be more difficult to make this fit into your wardrobe than something like this. You might have to buy a pair of pants in a bigger size. But again, those points only apply if you intend to carry the pistol on your person. So what do you do with the pistol when you're not carrying it? Most jurisdictions require that you secure your firearm to some degree, or at least make you liable if your firearm is left unsecured and somebody gets a hold of it and proceeds to use it for a nefarious act. This has become more and more the case over the past couple of years. So I would caution you to use discretion, use common sense, and to store your firearm in a manner that you are comfortable with. Just understand that firearms and children without adult supervision do not mix. Firearms and alcohol do not mix. So this video was intended to show you a couple of options available that I believe to be really good choices for a first-time firearm purchaser. Just remember that if you are going to purchase a firearm like one of these, that you are responsible for safe storage, proper handling, and receiving adequate training. There's no amount of YouTube videos that's going to teach you what you need to know without you getting to a range and being properly trained. I highly recommend that any new shooter appropriate into their budget a beginner firearm class. Learn from someone who is well versed in firearms. Perhaps you have that neighbor with the hat with the scrambled egg. I bet you he probably knows a thing or two about shooting a firearm, and if you asked him nice enough or baked him a cake, he might be willing to show you how to do it. But if you don't have that, there are classes available all over the place, usually around $100 or so, that can really help you get a basic understanding for how to handle a firearm. Just remember, treat every firearm as if it were loaded. Never point a firearm at anything that you do not wish to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And know your target and what's behind it. We will be covering more basics, more do's and don'ts for new gun owners. This video was intended mainly just to highlight a couple of good options available to someone looking for a new gun. Take care, thanks for watching, God bless.